It's Rebecca Combs at Design and Adorn, and I'd like to show you how to make the Very Merry Christmas ornament. Let's take a look. So the Very Merry ornament is an ornament cover that goes over a standard 2.5 inch Christmas bulb. This is the kind that they sell all over the place. We don't include these in the kit because it would like quadruple the shipping cost to make sure that this very fragile bauble didn't smash in transit, but they're very, very readily available. You can get these at any of the big box stores or craft stores. And this is the standard size. It's 2.5 inches across. And I use a glass bauble, but you could definitely use a plastic one if that's what you prefer. Personally, I do really like the frosted finish on the ornament. Those have become more and more available over the recent years, but they also look very pretty on the shiny. That's just a matter of personal preference. So in the Very Merry, what we're doing is we're building, I'm gonna take this off of here. We're gonna build this ornament cover. So most of the beaded ornaments that we design here, we start with what we call the crown row. The crown row is what goes around the top of the ornament. Typically, we remove the little, well, the crown. That's why we call it that. We take the crown off of the ornament and then this will slip over it and you'll put the crown back on. So in the Very Merry, we're going to have our crown row with some fire polish and size 8 seed beads, and then we're going to make some dangles using herringbone stitch. And once we've made the dangles, then we're going to have four layers of these swoops, and the swoops are going to be in different colors. I'm actually gonna build most, if not all of this ornament without actually putting it on the ornament, right? I usually wait till at least midway through. The crown in particular is a lot easier to do at the beginning. This is a beginner level project. You don't really need to have previous beading experience for it. You just need to be able to thread your needle and tie a half-hitch knot, and I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing we're gonna do to get started is that crown row. And of course, your Very Merry ornament kit has detailed step-by-step instructions with photos of all the different steps, and it will tell you the counts of all the different things. To keep it quicker in the video, I'm not gonna go over the exact counts. So I've picked up the beads I need for my crown row. I have them on a comfortable length of beading thread. That's like a hand-to-hand wingspan. And I'm gonna leave a nice little tail here, about 6 inches. If you're new to tying knots, maybe leave an 8-inch tail. But what I wanna do is I wanna bring the two sides of the thread together, like so, because I'm starting to form a loop here. So now there's a short side and a long side over here. I'm gonna make an overhand knot. An overhand knot is where you make a loop. I'm just doing a loop around my fingers and then pull both tails, the long one and the short one, through the loop and pull, make the knot. So there's my knot. It's pretty far away from my beads. This is not a problem though, because with this beading thread, the knot will actually slide. So I'm gonna take one end of the thread in each hand and pull in opposite directions, and ta-da! My knot has moved right down next to my beads. This is an excellent time to confirm that your crown ring will fit over the ornament. It may or may not fit over the crown. It does in this case. If I needed to remove the crown to get it on there, that would be fine too. And like I said before, I'm not gonna work with this on here, but it is really important to double check that it fits. We are here. We just did the crown row. Now we're gonna start adding these first fire polish that come off of there. I'm gonna pick up 2 fire polish. I'm gonna skip over this fire polish. Now I'm gonna sew through 8 fire polish 8. Notice how I hold the beadwork in my hand while I pull the thread. Great, now I have like a little triangle of fire polish beads arranged in a little set of 3. Now I'm gonna do it again. So I've picked up 2 fire polish, skip over one of these fire polish, and then sew through 8 fire polish 8. Great, I've gone all the way around and I've added the 2 fire polish beads at every position that was indicated in the instructions. Now I'm ready to start building down one of the dangles. I'm gonna leave my tail thread just hanging out for now. But to start building the dangle, I sew into this fire polish here. And this is where we're gonna actually begin herringbone stitch. I'm gonna pick up 2 size 8 seed beads. I'm gonna sew up through the next fire polish. So I went down on this side, I'm going up on the other side. To get back down so that I can add more seed beads, I'm going to sew in a circle. So I'm going to sew through this fire polish that's in the crown row, and then down through this fire polish and down through this size 8 seed bead. So first through the fire polish, and now down through the fire polish and the size 8. Now we're ready to add the next layer. Pick up 2 seed beads and we're going to sew up through the seed bead on the right of the layer before. Now this time to turn around, we don't have to go all the way to the top. We're just going to turn around here. We're just going to be turning around 1 layer above where we are. There we are. There's our newest layer, and we are in position to add more beads. Just follow along with your kit instructions. You want to keep going until you have 7 layers here. I'm going to do that really quick. Right, now I've finished the length of this dangle, and now I'm going to embellish it with a fire polish. So pick up a fire polish, and then this time I'm going to sew all the way up through because I'm finished building this dangle. I'm going to go all the way up to the crown row. Sew through the crown row to move over to the next dangle. Tail out of there. And then down through this first fire polish. And now I'm ready to construct the next dangle. I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of my attachment points. Great. Now I finished making all of the dangles and my thread is back to my first crown row right here. So you can see in our pattern, here's our start and then we come down and all that remains are these swoops. But first I have to finish off this crown and dangle section. I need to finish off both my working thread and my tail thread by making some half-hitch knots in the crown row. A half-hitch knot is when you catch the thread in between two beads, so I'm going to sew underneath it, and that will form a loop, and before the loop closes, I'm going to sew through the loop. I'm going to zoom in and show you what this looks like. So I have my needle on my working thread, and my thread is coming out this red size 8 seed bead, and I'm going to catch the thread that's in between the red bead and this yellow bead. So I'm just going to, basically I'm just bringing my needle between those two beads, right? I'm just setting it underneath it and pulling. There you go, see how I get that loop? Now I'm gonna sew through that loop. And as I close this up, I want that knot to form in between the two beads. Like so. That is a half-hitch knot. And now I'm going to scoot down. Just going to sew through the next two beads. I'm actually going to sew past a little bit, right? Because here's my tail that I started with. I want to leave room for it to tie some knots, and I don't want to gum up the roadway with knots. That's actually the reason why we didn't knot the tail earlier. It's because I was going to have to keep sewing through here. Oh, and once you get your dangles on here, you have to be careful to not catch them in your thread. Just be cognizant of that. So I'm going to just meander my way, mosey my way, sort of keep going. Don't catch any of your threads. Don't catch the dangles. This part's kind of fiddly just because you have all these dangles in the way. All right, now I'm far enough away from my tail that I can tie a second half-hitch knot with my working thread. So again, that's sew in between two beads, which is just like sew under the two beads in the crown row. There's my loop. Sew through the loop and slowly pull it closed. See how that knot's forming in between the two beads? And just put your thumb on it and pull. Ta-da! And now I'll just go through 2 more beads and I can cut this one off. Great, and then I'm just gonna do the same thing over here with my tail, and then I will be ready to move on to the next step, which is to add some new thread and begin the swoops. Great, I'm ready for my next step. I have finished off my working thread and the tail up here in the crown row, and I've trimmed off the excess. I have put my ornament cover onto the ornament ball, and for convenience I have a small bowl here that I can set my ornament in, that way it doesn't roll away. I've also cut a 2-yard piece of thread. This is a little bit longer than I cut it the first time. I'm just trying to avoid having to add more thread in the swoop section. I might still have to, but I just went a little bit longer. Don't go excessively long, right? 2 yards is good. If you go excessively long, you're just gonna catch it on things, and that will be really annoying for you. So what I need to do now is I need to anchor this new piece of thread in one of these dangles. It doesn't matter which one you start with, but to start my swoops, see how the swoops go in between the points of these little herringbone dangles? So I need to get the thread anchored in here, and then exiting that fire polish at the bottom. And actually I think I was a little premature putting that on the ornament. Let me hold this in my hand. I'm going to sew. So I'm right below this top fire polish in one of the dangles, and I'm gonna start sewing into the seed beads. Let's go down 2 seed beads. Pull your thread through, leaving like a 6-inch tail. And now I'm going to tie a half hitch knot, just like we did before when we were finishing off. I'm gonna catch the thread that's in between the seed bead I'm coming out of and the next seed bead. But this time, I can't just like put my needle behind it because there's another bead right next to it. I need to actually like sew up in between those beads. So pull, 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 a long piece of thread. See that loop? I'm gonna go through the loop. Pull, pull, put your thumb over it when you tug the final bit. There we go. So I have tied a half hitch knot around the thread that's inside of here. And just to be sure, I'm gonna sew down through 2 more beads and tie another half hitch knot. Great. And I'm gonna keep on sewing through the last few seed beads and sew through the fire polish. You can get rid of your tail now by just sewing up through here. We don't really need to tie half hitch knots with this one because I have 2 in here. If you feel like tying another knot up in the crown row, you can. Your other option would be to do the swoops and then get rid of this tail, but I think it's going to be in my way and be annoying, and it'll be just one more thing that I have to look out for. So I'm gonna get rid of it. Okay, now it's time to pick up a lot of beads. We're doing our swoops. We're gonna do the longest one first. It'll say in your kit instructions exactly how many beads to pick up. It's a whole bunch. I'm gonna do that now. Pay attention in the kit. Your colors will be labeled so you know which one goes where to make sure that you have enough beads of each color. Okay, I've picked up a whole lot of beads. Now I simply sew through the next fire polish at the bottom of the next dangle. Ta-da! And like I said at the very beginning, you can work on the ornament or off. I could just as easily have this sitting on here like this. Gravity will pull it down like that. Don't worry about it when you put the next one on. That's when it'll tighten up, but I think you'll be able to see this better if I keep it on the mat. So I'm gonna go all the way around doing the same thing. Great, so now you can see I've done all of the long swoops. Now it's time to do the next longest swoops, right? So here's the longest, here's the next one, and this one has a little fire polish embellishment. But the technique is totally the same. You pick up a bunch of seed beads with a fire polish in the middle, and then you just sew into the next fire polish. There we go. That's layer 2. Now we're gonna add a 3rd layer of swoops. Again, we just pick up however many seed beads it calls for the instructions, and then we just sew through the next fire polish, and the swoop is shorter still than the 2 that came before it. All right, that's the 3rd layer of swoops. This is also a really excellent time to evaluate whether or not you have enough thread remaining. I think I do, right? Because the swoops get significantly shorter every time. So I think I have enough to go around and still tie off. But if you were concerned that you did not have enough thread, what you would do is you would end your thread here, right? Tie some half hitch knots. in this herringbone dangle, cut a new piece of thread, just move over to the next dangle, start your thread just like we did at the beginning of the swoop step, come on down into the fire polish, and then resume beading so you can do your 4th layer of swoops. But I'm pretty sure I have enough thread. I'm gonna risk it. Let's live dangerously. As you're building your swoops, you want each shorter swoop to be on top of the ones before at this join point where everything is coming through the fire polish. So I'm just sort of like fluffing and adjusting my swoops here, right? So I have my longest one, and then on top of that is the next layer, and then the next and the next, especially this last one with the little fire polish on there. You want to make sure that it's just sitting on top of the swoops that came before it. There we are, made it all the way around. So that is the 4th layer of swoops on the Very Merry Ornament. So my thread is coming out this fire polish at the bottom one of the dangles, and all I have to do is finish off my working thread by sewing up the right side of this herringbone dangle, and I can tie some half-hitch knots in here, sew up to the crown row, and cut off the thread. This is finished. Thank you so much for watching how to make the Very Merry Ornament. I hope you have fun with that. All of the detailed instructions with step-by-step photos are included in the kit. Merry Christmas!